Welcome to the Cool Down Room with your host, Skye Archer, an F1 podcast where we talk all things Formula. Today, I am with a very special guest. I'm with Scarlett Archer. Scarlett, thank you so much for being with me here today. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. So I'm Scarlett Archer and I'm 15 years old. I'm from Sheffield and I've been doing a little bit of work for F1 for about the past year now, but mainly I work on a show on Sky News and Sky Kids called FYI, for your info. So it's presented by kids for kids and it explains current affairs in a way where, us kids can understand them, because we're going to be the futures, we're going to be the next world leaders possibly. So it's really important that we understand. But I've had some amazing experiences with F1. I got to go to the Hungarian Grand Prix in Budapest, which was amazing. And I've been doing lots of different bits of, commentating and interviews. It's just all been so exciting.
Yeah, so you've had some amazing opportunities, not only in F1, but just your whole life so far. It just seems full of, I don't know, just incredible opportunities. You've talked to some incredible people. You do a lot of interviewing yourself. And of course, you've been to the F1. And I know that myself and my viewers, like listeners, we'll all be so interested to hear about all that, because I think it's amazing that you're 50. You're awesome because you're going to, not only are you going to F1, you also got your, work at Sky and everything, but you're going to the F1, doing all the interviewing and talking to drivers and really interesting people. And you do it amazingly. I love watching it when you're on the F1 Kids channel. I love it. It's so good. It's so professional. You ask all the right questions. I feel like I know everything I need to know once you've asked them. So it's perfect. So I guess I want to know a little bit about what's your sort of experience like when you go to the F1 as sort of a young girl going into the environment. Is there anything that you really like, or is there anything you not so sure on? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been so positive. I think that, F1 is something that's always been kind of, more towards boys and males. So I think it's really amazing that I can be there to kind of be an advocate for girls maybe in racing and all that. And I think that it's really great that there's somewhere where people can go, because I remember the first time I watched F1, I was so confused. There were so many words flying at me. I didn't understand what anything meant, just cars zooming everywhere. So I feel like F1 Kids describes it in a really fun way, but it doesn't talk down to anyone. But my experience has been amazing. I mean, I got to meet literally all the drivers, and it's been so exciting. I had the opportunity to sit in Vettel's car, and I think commentating was definitely the most challenging part for me, because I can't think that quickly when it comes to all the key terminology. But my favorite bit has got to be the whole trophy gate situation, because in Budapest, when I was filming there, I didn't see it because I was just leaving the commentating booth. But when the trophies were being presented, Lando Norris got some champagne or prosecco and he knocked it, and it completely shattered the trophy. This trophy that had been worked on for hours and hours, spent so much money on it, just shattered it. So in the little commentate, the questiony bit, the media pen, that's what it's called. I was stood in there interviewing all the drivers, and then someone said to me, "Oh, Lando broke Max's trophy." So he came around, and I was like, "What happened with the trophy?" And he was like, "What trophy?" And I was like, "Max's trophy." And he said, "I don't know, nothing to do with me." And I was like, "I think it was to do with you." He's like, "I broke the trophy." And I was like, "How did you break it?" And he was like, "Happily." And then I was scrolling on TikTok the next day, and I kept seeing it pop up, and my friends were sending it to me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Because in the moment I was like, "Oh, that might have been a bit of a silly question to ask," but it went everywhere, and I was like, "Oh, it's exciting."
I loved that one as well, because I kept seeing that video. It was everywhere. It was all over my For You page and everything on TikTok and all that. And I thought it was just so good, because I feel like a lot of the commentators, I don't know, you kind of they almost hold back in a way, you know what I mean? They're kind of, they've got to ask the right.
They have questions, technical questions, and I feel like the really exciting bit of F1 is all the stuff around it. That's the bit I love. I like the actual race, but there's so many laps and there's only so much you can really say. But the lead up to it, getting to know all about the drivers is just so exciting to me. And it's like a whole event almost, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, I totally agree, because a massive part of F1, it's not just about cars going around the track, because the cars going around the track is really exciting and amazing to watch, but you've got these drivers who have big personalities, you've got these teams that have big personalities, and I love seeing them kind of before and after, and hearing their thoughts on things, and they'll have great friendships, and then there's also, there's moments they don't have great friendships, and I love seeing that. So yeah, I thought that was a great little conversation between you and Lando there. It was just it was fun. You could see the personality in it, which I loved. But
Another thing that I absolutely loved doing was I got to do some pit reporting with Ted Kravitz, and it
yeah,
was crazy. Like I know that it's loud there, but I had to have like these in-ears so I could hear like the directors talking to me, then some like ear things on top, and then these like massive ear defenders. And then they hooked me up with this like massive, it was literally like those things that stick out the top of a car. And I'm walking about waiting for my interview with this like literal like
aerial.
satellite coming
Yeah.
out the back of my trousers, and I'm walking about with it and I'm like, what is going on here?
Oh
And
my
then it
God.
finally gets to my interview and I'm like almost falling over with all this like stuff weighing me down. But it was incredible, like the cars being that close to them, like they're so loud that you can like feel it like inside like you, like
Yeah,
the vibrations. It was just
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I can't even imagine having that job. And I was like, Ted, I think it's about time that you switch to an iPad, because there's this crusty old notebook for all his things, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Ted's
get an
notebook.
iPad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should be Ted's iPad, not Ted's notebook. Yeah, I have to say, being in the pit lane, I was at Silverstone last year, and just there as a watcher, as a fan, I went and did the pit lane walk, and they were doing pit stop practice, and
Mhm.
I've obviously I've watched F1 for years. I know what it's like, but I was not expecting it to be just that intense
Yeah.
and loud. It
Mhm.
actually scared me quite a lot, actually, when it happened. It was amazing to see
Yeah.
up close and personal. The car's huge, up close and personal as well.
Mhm.
And it's so exciting. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Having,
because when they're going around, the cars don't look very big. And then when you see them, you're like, okay, they're actually quite large. And then because I got to sit in Vettel's car and it was like, oh, it was amazing. It was like being in like a dentist chair, you know, like you like lie back. It was quite cozy. I could go for a little nap in there.
yeah, I could do. I love that. So you've met like Vettel, you've met all the current drivers and everything. Do you have like a favorite moment with them? I know, I mean, Vettel, seems like an amazing guy, a huge inspiration, an incredible driver, of course. Like, what was your experience meeting all of them?
Well, I mean, it was quite like, it didn't feel real because like you see them on the TV and like they look a certain way, and when you see them and they're actually there, it's like crazy. Like I remember in the media pen, Fernando Alonso walked in and he was literally like a movie star. He walked in like all cool. He had like his little water bottle, and I was like,
So mad.
he seems like one of those like super villains in a movie that like walks in. But with Vettel, it was just amazing. Like he was so like down to earth. Like we had like a 20-minute long interview and he came like an hour early just to like say hi. His wife was there, all his kids. And what he's doing is, because he was racing at like the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and he was using like a synthetic fuel because he wants to change like the future of racing, because it's quite like a, like, you know, it's not very good for the environment, which is, I think it's good that they've changed like the race schedule, like the race calendar now, so it's like regionalized, which I think is like a really good thing, because you know there's so many different like people to get over in all these different countries. So I think that's something that was really amazing that he was doing, because as much as he loves the sport, he's identified that, you know, it's not great for the environment. So if he's trying to find like alternatives and they work just as well, then I think that's something that's really important. But of course, I liked meeting Charles Leclerc. He's my favorite
Oh,
driver.
absolutely. I'm sure I can imagine up close in the flesh. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I always see the TikToks of all the fangirls making that make that all the fangirls make of him. And I'm like, all right, right.
Yeah. I
We'll see.
had in Budapest, I had an interview with like one interview, because I had like individual ones in the media pen, but then I had one with George Russell, Alex Albon, and Lando Norris, and oh my gosh, they were like three little naughty best friends at
I
school.
love
They were
that.
just like joking with each other. And then I had
Yeah.
like a question. It was like a joke question at the end. It was like, what animal would you be? And they were all like, blah blah would be a chihuahua, and then blah blah, and they were like really thinking about it, like seriously. And I was like, it's a joke, but they were just so funny, like all together. And that's like the bit I love, because they
Yeah.
all like, you know, have such good friendships with each other. And it's so funny to see that they're normal people.
I know, I agree with that so much, because when you do watch the racing, it's so competitive, there's rivalries, and
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, if a driver sort of hits another driver, there's going to be, rivals there and
Mhm.
everything. But they get off the track and they're just friends and they just chat like normal
Yeah.
people. I'm always sort of kind of in awe of, to be honest, that they can just get past things like that so quickly and so
Mhm.
easily. I definitely agree. But yeah, meeting Sebastian Vettel sounds amazing. I think he's an amazing advocate for all of the kind of eco side I mean, F1
Mhm.
is eco, and so I think he's bringing that into it, which I love. I really respect that of him. But moving into a little bit more of like news in F1, we'd maybe talk a little bit about what's going on, because of course we've had so many things happen in the past, what, week, 2 weeks, which have been completely insane. I think we've all it's gone a bit mad with the whole silly season moment, hasn't it? But I
Yeah.
think it started a little bit. Of course, touch on Andretti not getting into F1. So obviously they applied for an F1 team as the 11th F1 team, which I think odd number, that's unfortunate, but could have been really good for the sport. And now, of course, he's been rejected, or the whole team have been rejected, which I think is interesting. And it could be a bad thing for a sport. It could be the good thing. I don't know. What's your opinion on it? Do you have any opinion on it?
Well, I don't think it was very fair. It doesn't seem like there was like a big like decision-making process. It kind of seems like it was put forward, wasn't thought about, and just like shun away. I think that he deserves to have a team there, you know. I think that it was quite unfair, and I feel like it should have been thought about more. Like it doesn't matter if there's like it's an odd number, you know, I think that another team really could have added, and I would have been really interested to see where they would have ended up this season. You know, would they have maybe challenged Red Bull? Would they have, you know, challenged Mercedes, been up there? I think it would have really added and, you know, added to the whole like season. So I think that it was kind of disappointing that, you know, it just wasn't really talked about a lot. Like it kind of seems like the idea was pitched and then just kind of maybe covered up with something else or like just thrown away. And I think it was unfair to not really. And then this surprise news of Lewis was kind of just like plonked at us at a really random time, and it all just seems a bit confusing to me, I think.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that, because I think the whole Andretti thing, it was kind of pushed under the carpet in a way, because we didn't hear anything about it. It was sort of news, and then all of a sudden, here's Lewis. Oh my gosh, he's moving, and we
Yeah.
like coming out. But I think Andretti's team could have added a lot to F1, because as you say, there's a lot of question marks on whether they could have done well and started challenging the higher up teams. I mean, it would have been their first year in F1. I'm not sure if it was going to be 2026, wasn't it, when they'd come in.
Yeah.
I think they could have bought something new, even if they were one of the smaller teams in 2026. Looking on forward, they would have, lots of improvement, I'm sure, investments and sponsors going into F1 as well, which I'm sure would have made it into a good
Yeah, I
team.
think they would have brought like a form of excitement because we don't know. We don't know how well they could have done. You know, they could be new, come in and just really, you know, get up there and be challenging for those other teams, or they could start at the bottom and, you know, slowly work their way up. It's just so, you know, like we don't know, but I think it really would have added something if, you know, there was a bit more of like, if they considered a bit more about them joining. It just doesn't make sense that, you know, it kind of just seems like there was no like thought process. They kind of just said no and then, you know,
No,
brought out this other shocking news.
yeah, I know, definitely. I also think having an 11th team, it would have brought on two new drivers. So, of course, we would have had 22 seats
Yeah.
open, which obviously could have opened new opportunities for the younger,
Mhm.
like two and stuff. But anyway, yeah, that's something. And then, of course, big news, really big news is, of course, Lewis Hamilton, after 11 years with Mercedes, moving across to Ferrari. So, what do we think of that?
I have very mixed opinions because my favorite thing has been the Carlos bromance. I absolutely love Carlos and Charles
I
together.
so
So I'm
agree.
going to be really sad to see that go because I love it. I love all the edits on TikTok. I absolutely adore it. When I think of Ferrari, like at this moment in time, I think of them, and it was shocking. Like I wasn't expecting it. And I mean, Lewis, I know he's not been like the happiest at Mercedes. He's been complaining about the car like the last season. So I think he really wanted something that would like, you know, show his abilities.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't know. I think it means that for George, he's really going to be pushing himself. He wants to be the future of Mercedes now, and he's going to be pushing himself and working hard. Not that he didn't last season, but I think they need to find someone that will really work well with George. A straight switch with Carlos, that would be good. But I was thinking maybe like Fernando Alonso. I feel like that could be an interesting one because
There is
yeah, he has a
definitely.
lot of experience, and I think him and George would like make a good team. I mean, the one that I would really love to see would obviously be Vettel, but I have a feeling that's not going to happen. But I think that would make like an incredible season if Vettel came in, Vettel and George in the Mercedes. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want to see Vettel's return. Definitely. I'd love that.
yeah.
But
And I was thinking, I mean, like, I think Oscar Piastri has been doing so well. And I really think that if he was in the Mercedes, like I think he would just do exceptionally. And I feel like he'd just shock everyone. Another person that would be interesting would be Alex Albon because he did really well last season.
there is
And
plenty
Tim and
of-
George are like really good friends. So I feel like that would be interesting, but I don't know if that'll happen.
no, I agree, because Fernando Alonso is probably, if I look at it right now, I think what's most likely, and Fernando there's a big part of me saying that's really likely. Actually, that makes so much sense. But there's also the part of me like, I don't think Fernando Alonso will do that. Like, it's quite
Yeah, it's so
random.
difficult because you just don't know. Like so many different things could happen, and
Exactly.
it's just so like there's so many different things.
Yeah, I think we're going to find out a lot of talks and all this stuff over the year. I know, of course, we've just found out that Alex Albon had so-called been offered a contract with Red Bull, which
Mhm.
is very surprising. But yeah,
Yeah.
of course, that will obviously take him off the table for Mercedes. So they've got to start thinking. I was also thinking of Kimi Antonelli, who is the F2 driver or will be F2 driver,
Mhm.
that he's part of the Mercedes junior drivers
Mhm. Mhm.
completely gone team.
Mhm.
And he's done really well. He's won like 5 different championships over the past few years,
Mhm.
all like F4 related, and he's going into F2
Yeah.
this year. And so I think maybe if he does really well, they could look at him coming into the seat, but then he's
Yeah.
18 obviously for next year. So
Mhm.
there's options
It's
there.
just there's so many different possibilities. And it's so like I just really want to know who they're going to pick, and I think George is really going to do well, and I think whoever he works alongside with will,
Mm.
work well with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think George is a really good driver. I think he's really strong. He's got it in him. I think he
Mhm.
needs a good pairing because if he doesn't have the right person besides him, I think it could, in a weird way, I think he could fall apart slightly because I don't think George can hold it all on his own. So I think he needs
Mhm.
a really strong teammate that he can trust, that Mercedes can
Mhm.
trust, that they can really work together. But I think he's absolutely a winning driver and looking at a championship in the future. Uh,
Mhm. I agree.
he's in the right car. So yeah, it is really exciting. We've got so many things to look forward to. But of course, we've got Carlos out of the seat in Ferrari. And so as you said a bit earlier, maybe he could go across to Mercedes. Wouldn't that be awesome, a full switch? But I don't know if he would go over there because I'm not sure if it's his kind of team. But there's a lot of options for him, but I'm getting a bit worried that maybe
I really hope he gets a seat in the season because I think he's like an incredible driver, and I think it would be really like a waste for him to not be there because he's got like such good skill and he's been doing well. So, if he doesn't get a seat, I'll be really disappointed.
yeah, definitely. I agree because he is such a good driver and he brings a lot to F1. As you say, like when you think of Ferrari, I do think of, the Ferrari boys,
A
Um,
smooth operator.
absolutely, yes. Smooth Operator, that was on all my playlists when that all went bad. Like I love that song now. So when you, of course, you're planning to go to some of the F1 this year, to go and do some commentating and go and see it, everyone. Do you think you would like ask the questions to like Lewis about Ferrari, or do you think that this year Lewis is going to be focusing entirely on Mercedes and then looking on for net like in 2025, then moving on to Ferrari? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think because he's still, with Mercedes, he's going to want to leave on a high. So I
Yeah.
think he's really going to, be giving it his all. But I think if I saw him, I'd ask him a couple questions about Ferrari because I think we all know that he wasn't, as I said, too happy with the car. But I want to know really why he wanted a change and what he thinks that Ferrari can give him that maybe Mercedes couldn't. Because, I think there's quite a lot of frustration with him, not really winning last year. So I want to know what he thinks that Ferrari can give him. But I feel like he's really going to be pushing, to get to the top just to leave Mercedes on a high and, make them all proud because, despite him leaving, he wants to, make everyone happy, make everyone proud and show what he can do before he moves on to the next thing and, does some more great things.
No, exactly. I think Mercedes at the end of the day, they've been so good for him as they've got him what 6 of his 7 world championships and that they've been there to support him from his first day at Mercedes. So he's going to want to owe them, a good year and push as hard as
Mhm.
possible. That is what he is all about, isn't it? So as moves to later on in the season, maybe he's going to start looking at, how
Yeah.
far he's doing and all that. But yeah, I think it sort of confuses me a little bit why he's moved, but at the end of the day, I
Because
think it's
he's won so many things at Mercedes, so I want to know exactly what he thinks Ferrari can give him
mm,
that Mercedes can't. Maybe it was like he fancied a new teammate or something, or he needed like a better car, or he just felt like he would do better there. It just seems like a bit, in a way, a bit random. Like I know he complained about the car, but I did not think he would move. Like I
no,
really didn't.
no, me neither, not at all. No, and I think I saw was it? was it Fernando Alonso in an interview years and years ago? He said every driver wants to go to Ferrari. Like world championships are the number
Yeah.
one, but going to Ferrari is like a childhood dream. And so I think a
Yeah.
part of the Lewis thing, it must be something in relation to, you know, it's his childhood dream to be a part of the red team. And so he's now
Mhm.
going to be able to fill that, you know, fill that shoe
Yeah.
and drive in the red car. I can't
Yeah.
imagine him in the red suit. Like I can always see him in the
I
white.
can't. I was thinking about that. I think it'll be interesting to see him in red, but like, I don't think it will suit him. Just saying. I don't know. I can't imagine it. The blue, I see, but then I can't imagine him in the red. I can't imagine him in red or orange. I could never imagine him in like McLaren,
No.
but like the blue just fits him, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the red, we just don't ever see him in that color, do we? But I think I just can't in my head. I can't see him in the red. And it's all these sort
Yeah.
of AI generated and all these photoshopped photos of him in red. I'm like, they're
Yeah.
real. Like we need to just be patient and wait for the him to actually return.
Mhm.
That actually leads us on really well into like all the car liveries. So I don't know if you've seen the recent car liveries that we've had. Obviously, the teams are now releasing the car designs or the suits ready for this year. And I
Mhm.
just wanted to get a little bit more of an opinion on what you think of each of the teams that you've seen.
Mhm.
So, looking at, I don't know which ones you've seen, but looking at like McLaren, for example, they released theirs
Mhm.
a few weeks ago, actually, just as like a little, here's our livery. Um, it seems that all of the teams have gone very carbon related. Of course, the less color they have, the lighter the car is, of course, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And having exposed carbon was kind of Mercedes thing. They kind of brought that in first. It was really
And
clever.
now
Like
they're all copying.
I know, yeah. So now all of the cars have ended up being very, very black, which I don't think is a bad thing,
Mhm.
but a lot of them haven't bought in that color. So McLaren, for example, what used to be an incredibly orange car is now mainly sort of 70% black, a hint of
With
white,
hints of orange, like here and there.
like little bits, and then a lot of logos and all that. And I was looking at the new Visa Cash App RB livery. They've released that
What
today.
is that name? What is that name?
I
Visa
don't know.
Cash App RB.
Imagine sitting on an interview saying, "Hi, I'm Skye Upshot and I drive for Visa Cash App RB F1 Racing Team." I'm like, no, that's insane. But looking at their livery, it's really bright. They've gone full blue, full white, and they've got some red in there. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's because it's got like minimal black.
It looks, to me, it looks fresh.
Yeah,
Like compared to all the other cars, it looks just like completely redesigned. Like the other ones, they have like the same ideas as before. Like, for example, like Alpine. I think that one looks quite similar to me.
it
For
does.
Alpine, I was so excited for this pink camo.
Yeah. What's happened
Where's
there?
the pink camo?
Yeah.
Where's the pink camo? It looks the
Everyone who
same as
doesn't,
before. I'm so
I
disappointed.
agree.
But I feel like the Visa Cash App RB, like at first glance, you might think, oh, might think it's a bit boring. But then when you compare it to all the other cars, it's so different compared to all of them. It feels like so fresh. It feels like modern. And it just feels like a breath of fresh air.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, because it's not the livery isn't necessarily amazing for the Visa
Mhm.
Cash App RB car. That's a mouthful, that is.
We
But
can
I
call it VCARB. VCARB. There we go.
yeah, V say I can't even say that. It's like a but yeah, looking at the other cars and then comparing it to the VCARB, I like that. I think it looks great just because it is colourful. I think Ferrari is probably our only hope now, looking at them all. I think
Mhm.
it's bringing quite a lot. I know they've hinted a bit more white, so I'm really hoping they've just stuck with red and then gone with.
I think the steak one is really interesting
I think
with the
so.
green.
Mhm.
It really stands out.
It
I
does.
think that one's quite
Yeah, I mean they've still gone for the black, but they've got a really, really, really bright colour, like really bright
yeah.
colour.
It's like
So with
neon.
proper neon, yeah. I actually, to be honest, I quite like it because yeah, it's the black with the neon, and therefore it pops
Mhm.
out really well.
I
I think
think the Haas one is a bit boring. Like it's just
that yeah, the houses
plain.
kind of they've gone for the same thing, and then
Mhm.
they've gone for it's very different, but it's what they had last year, but just every color is swapped to like either white or black. So wherever it
Yeah.
was before is now black, and wherever it was black
Yeah.
before it's now white. The Visa Cash App RB. livery, and obviously that all came out. But they've also got their racing suits because, of course, all the racing suits have been released, and they've gone like for an all white kind of.
White. They look like credit cards to me.
Oh, I like that.
They
Yeah,
could be actually, I just thought of that then, but like they could be like little two credit cards in the cars.
I
Like
love
the
that.
cars, like the car's the payment machine, and then they're the little credit cards that just slot
I love
in.
that because it is Visa Cash App. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They are the credit cards. Yes, I like that. I now that you've said that, I agree. Definitely, they look like credit cards. Very, very white. Very white. We've had obviously McLaren. They've gone for an orange at the top and black at the bottom. But they have you seen theirs? They've got like a it's a line, like a diagonal line
I
which goes
haven't
from the
seen
orange
that.
to the black. I'm not keen. I'm not sure.
It sounds like asymmetrical like that.
Yeah, it's nice, but it also, I don't know, it makes the hip part of the suit a bit weird. Like I don't know. Anyway,
Oh.
look it up later. I'm not entirely sure. The Haas have got like, it looks like a sort of bib, I think. It's all black and it's got like a white kind of diamond shape top, which obviously might be a little bit weird. Williams have gone all
Yeah.
white. Williams have gone all white, and they've got the My Protein sponsor quite big in the middle, which is
Oh,
a bit weird. Um,
that's
so,
interesting.
so looking at this year for you with F1, before we talk a little bit about your sort of other work stuff, but with F1, I know you talked to me the other day and said that you were going to some of the races this year. So is there anything that you could tell us like a little bit before that? Is there anything that's kind of like you're excited for, or anywhere you know you're going to, or anything like that?
Well, I know that I'm doing 7 of the Grand Prix this year. I don't think I'm going there for them, but I know I'm doing the commentating for them, which is
Yeah,
really exciting. The one that I really wanted to do was the Monaco one, but I have my GCSEs right in the middle of it, so I can't do that one. But the one that I'm always interested in is the night races, like the Las Vegas one. I think it's so exciting, and it's like so exhilarating to be sat there, and it's like getting, dark there. Like the energy is still there even when it's dark out. And I
yeah,
love all the night races,
imagine,
and
like
that like how in Vegas it's on the strip. I just think it's so cool.
yeah, definitely. Imagine having a race at midnight. I just think that's really cool. Is there a
I'd
race?
fall asleep.
Is oh yeah, that honestly I would too. I'm not a late night person. Is there a race that you like want to go and visit one day or go and see? Is there like a favorite of yours?
Well, I'd love to go to the Monaco one. I
Yeah,
think that would be amazing. Definitely the Vegas one.
yeah,
And I was thinking the Abu Dhabi one. That
yeah,
one would be so cool.
yeah.
And
That
I
would,
mean, since we're in England, I feel like I have to go to the Silverstone one, definitely.
yeah. Which ones did you actually go to, like in person?
I only went to the Hungarian one.
Yeah,
Um, so I went to the Hungaroring in Budapest,
yeah,
but I commentated on the Singapore one and the Abu Dhabi one.
yeah.
Then I got to visit Silverstone
Which
to see Vettel and
yes,
Vettel's car, and that was really cool.
no, it sounds amazing. Like all the experiences going there and everything. Yeah, I'm very envious of the whole thing. Yeah, you said also that you obviously did a little bit with Vettel to do with like the Goodwood Festival. Do you think you can see yourself doing any other sort of motorsport events or commentating like in the future?
I definitely think so. I think it would be amazing, anything to do with motorsports. I'm hooked now,
Yeah.
go-karting. I had a go at go-karting as well, and it was so exciting. I don't know how they do it because I was like, I'm not going to put my foot on the brake. I'm just going to go for it and win. And I had to put my foot on the brake. I had
Yeah.
to. I was like swerving off. I did crash a couple of times,
Yeah.
but it was fine. But I mean, I'd be open to do, all types of, reporting and presenting. I mean, I got to speak to Susie Wolf about getting more girls into F1 for her Discover Your Drive. And that was really cool. It was for F1 Academy. And it was amazing to be able to, talk to aspiring, race car drivers that are female. And hopefully one day we can get a female in F1. So, that was an initiative all about getting more girls because there's literally slim to none like female F1 role models. Like there's barely any girls in it. So I think it'd be a dream come true for me to see a girl in F1 in the future.
Yeah, I definitely absolutely agree. I think what Susie Wolf is doing is incredible. I'm sure that was amazing talking to her. What was your experience like with talking to Susie?
Yeah, well, it was just incredible because I kind of went into it thinking that girls didn't really have a shot at it. And
Mm.
after speaking to her, I felt so positive and I realized that, you know, girls can do it. Like, it makes no sense to think that they can't. The only reason why they might be at a disadvantage is because they start like racing later than boys
Yeah.
because of the lack of like role models. But it was just such a positive experience, and it was just amazing to see so many girls having a go at a sport that usually, you know, isn't like marketed towards us. So it was just like so positive to be able to talk to her, and it was like, it was such an honor to be able to speak to her because she's such an amazing woman, and you know, she's
Yeah.
an amazing like racer. And then, you know, the fact that she's using like her platform, because, you know, she's quite well known and she's using it to be an advocate for something like that, I think it's just great.
Yeah, I definitely, and I think you've made a good point with the sort of young girls getting into it and not having the role models, because you look at a lot of like young kids, as in young boys, and they might look up to people like Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, you know, in the UK and in other places, you know, around the world, and look at their kind of nationality drivers and really aspire to be like them. But I
Mhm.
definitely agree that girls, you wouldn't say, oh, I want to be like Lewis Hamilton necessarily when I'm older, because girls don't have the same, you know, they can't relate in the same way at all
Yeah.
to a boy
Mhm.
could. So I think you made a really good point in that they don't necessarily have anyone to look up to, and therefore when they are young, they don't get into it as young because they're not right, you know, really wanting to. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there definitely does need to be a bit more of a woman role model in the sport, because I think more and more women are coming into it. But I'd love to see, as you say, in the future, in the near future, I honestly, I really do hope in the near future we see an F1 driver who
Yeah.
is female. But even in like F2, I know of course the F1 Academy is a huge sort of area for women to go to, but having a woman in F2 would be amazing, just to see them
Yeah.
in, you know, almost at the top would be
Mhm.
incredible.
I
But
agree.
soon to come, hopefully. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, moving on to a little bit more about you and your personal work, not necessarily F1 related, because of course you've had a very busy few years, it seems, but last year seemed really busy for you. You do a lot of commentating and work for Skye, particularly the FYI Skye channel. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you do and maybe how you got into it as well?
Yeah, so I've been doing acting and like commercials and things since I was really like young. I started off doing stage productions. And
Mhm.
then in lockdown, I was like finding it really hard because I couldn't go on auditions. I couldn't, you know, be filming things. So I was doing these Shakespeare plays online. So you like get a script, you meet with all these people, and then like you learn everything, you have some like rehearsals, and then they go out on YouTube like live. And I was doing them, and then Skye noticed that I was doing them, and they asked me to do something called a video diary. So like you film like the process of it, and that went out as like a little report on Sky News. And then I emailed like the producer, and I was like, we've just gone back to school after lockdown, and it's freezing in all the classrooms. We're not allowed to wear our coats, and the windows are open, and all the teachers are like bundled up with their hot drinks and scarves, and we're here shivering. So I did a whole report about that, and then the producer phoned me, and he was like, yeah, we're gonna you know, give you like some reports to do in the north because I'm from Sheffield, but we're probably not gonna have you in the studio that much. And then I went to like film in the studio once, and I film in the studio every week. But my first job was introducing Boris Johnson to a press conference, and I was like, oh, my first job, okay, it's
That's pretty
exciting.
big.
I'll do it,
That's
sure,
pretty big.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
but since then I've just been like interviewing. My favorite thing is to interview politicians. Like that's my favorite thing because as you know, a younger person, I can get away with asking some cheekier questions and you know, not get in trouble. But I film in the studio every Wednesday for the weekly show, and then I do other reports in the week. I just finished doing a whole documentary about gaming addiction, which I thought was really interesting and really important to talk about, especially, you know, like with changing technology. Like there's new games coming out every day, and people don't realize how much of an impact it can have on your life. But one thing that I did that I think has got to be my favorite, and it was like just so eye-opening to me, was about maybe 2 years ago now. When the war in Ukraine first started, I went to the border between Ukraine and Poland, and I did a whole documentary about the war in Ukraine. And that was just so eye-opening to me because you see everything about it, like you see it on the TV, you see it on the news, and then to actually be there and like you just feel helpless. Like there were people my age, there were people like younger than me with their mums, and like when I film, my mum takes me everywhere, and it was just like it was so like hard hitting, and I couldn't imagine myself in that position. So that was something that like, you know, really like hit me. But like it just shows like the range of things that you get to do in this industry that I'm always like so thankful for, because I get carried away, like I just memorize scripts and I go and I do it, and then sometimes I'm just sat there and I look back and it's like I'm just so thankful for like all the things that I've had the opportunity to do, because it is sometimes hard missing school, especially near my GCSEs, but I could never get the experiences that I have like anywhere else, because it's not just learning about them, it's actually being there, meeting like these people, and like going through these different things that people, you can't learn that.
No, not at all. And I definitely agree, because when you're in the world, you see and hear and talk to so many people, and that is knowledge, massive amounts of knowledge that you won't be able to learn in school. But hearing the stories of where you've been and what you've accomplished, and I'm inspired like massively. I think what you're doing is amazing, and you're really good at it, like really, really good
Thank
at
you.
it.
Well, I think what you're doing is amazing. Like, it's such a smart thing to do. And I remember when I first properly started to learn at F1, like learn about F1, your videos were the only ones that I actually wanted to watch, because you explained it in like such a good way. Like, you don't talk down, you say the facts, but you don't like make it so confusing that you don't want to listen to it. Like, like so much. And it was literally like I'd send them to my mum, and then my mum started sending them to me, and it was like we'd just always be watching your videos, and it's like I told all my friends, and it was just like such a good place to like get the information, because it's like you're so reliable for the information, but you make it fun but still like informative. So I was like, thank you, it was like such an amazing place to help me.
Very kind of you. Thank you. I really want to be, moving into F1, bringing more people into it, letting people understand the sport, and because it is all really confusing. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I've been watching it for years. I still get confused a bit, and I just want to learn about it and make sure everyone else understands it, because it is confusing. But yeah, honestly, I can't thank you enough for talking with me today on the podcast.
Thank you.
I really hope for the best for you and everything. I'm sure we'll catch
Thank
up
you.
maybe. But yeah, last question before, I mean, I know the whole season has not started yet, but who do you think is going to have the world champion this year?
Okay.
Drum roll.
I think, okay, I'm going to say Red Bull. Okay. I think Max Verstappen, but I have such high hopes for Lando Norris. He's been so close to winning, Grand Prix. I think he's going to have a really good chance. I think that McLaren's going to be up there, and I hope, no, I'm going to say Lando Norris. Lando Norris, my final guess, because I love Lando Norris.
Yeah. Oh, we all do. He is always brilliant, isn't he? I definitely agree with that. I'm with you. Thank you so much. Honestly, thank you again, Scarlett, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me.